than welcome back to Little Miss Dropstitch. It's an absolute scorcher here in the northwest of England, 17 degrees Celsius, and I'm always a cold person, so if I've got my arms out, it is definitely roasting and cracking the flags. So today, a little bit different, we're going to talk how you can spot if an image is AI generated. What's this got to do with crafting? Well, I keep seeing a lot of posts on Facebook, or my mum will show them to me, or they'll be posted in, the craft groups. Wouldn't this be great, to make for my granddaughter? And you're thinking, you do know that's not real. So it's a bit of a concern, they're that kind of realistic that people can't tell, certainly not, from a first glance. So we'll talk about how you can spot if something's artificially intelligence generated. Okay. I can see the benefits and the disadvantages of it. So this video won't be debate, but I'd love to do a video on that. So please do let me know your thoughts and feelings on AI, particularly the images for crafting, and let me know how you feel about that. What I do have an issue with is these images that I'm showing you today haven't been labelled as not real, as AI generated, so people think that it's possible that you can do these things with. These ones seem to be crochet, and also then that, yeah, it kind of does it take away from the imagination of making an art piece. Sorry, I've just had my breakfast. So yeah, anyway, we're not debating today, but I really want to hear your thoughts on it. So without further ado, okay, first up is this lovely rainbow. That's the thing, like, I like it, I'd totally steal it for an idea. And given that there's no artist to it, go ahead and steal it for an idea. Yeah, we've got beautiful shells around it. The roses look really realistic, actually. The bit I take issue with is the tassels. They're just not how you'd have a tassel, basically. That just wouldn't work like that. And also the bit they're attached to, that white line at the bottom of the rainbow, is really rigid, which wouldn't happen. That would sag. So yeah, those tassels are a bit funky, and the yarn and the image just looks a bit wispy, and we'll kind of see that as we go along. Yeah, you could mistake it for double crochet, single in the US stitches on the rainbow. So yeah, that could be quite convincing, especially the roses, but yeah, the tassels kind of give it away. Next up, this mandala. So you'll see a lot of these have a wooden floor background for some and no apparent reason, and that's the problem when pages post these and they've posted a few. Then if there is one that is actually genuine, it throws that into doubt, which would then be a terrible shame if it was real. So this one, the center is the bit that gave it away for me, because it's meant to be like a magic ring, and it's just too close together. Those aren't double crochet, single crochet US stitches. And the thumb as well looks quite short, which is could be plausible, but it does look quite short. Again, the image is just a little bit shiny, but other than that, it's quite convincing. This one, actually, yeah, this is even more convincing. You could say that she's only 3 fingers and a thumb, but then your little one could be tucked behind. Yeah, there's a crochet hook in the background, random wooden floor. Again, yeah, it's the centre that's just a bit strange with those stitches, but not as much to give this one away, to be honest. Sorry if I'm leaning into the screen to see. Yeah, that centre there's just not quite realistic enough, but it's really pretty. Next up, okay, we could delve into, what's wrong with these stitches. We could kind of really zoom in and analyse, but then sometimes with these you've just got to take a step back and try and look for the obvious. So unless this beautiful other mitt is for, Star Trek, whatever, there we go, unless it's for Star Trek and they need 3 fingers in it, then yeah, it's no good to anyone. So yeah, I find that quite funny. And if you take a step back, you'd actually see that it's made for a mutant. Same with the hot water bottle. Bit of a short and funny shape, but oh well. And then there's the weird spider thing on top. So it's just not quite what a human would make. But other than that, yeah, the stitches could look quite convincing, and they're nice colours as well. But yeah, that does make me laugh, that one, every time. Next up, okay, lots more wooden flooring. Look at those kind of gypsy feel in the background and the wood paneling. That's really realistic. So this blanket, whilst I don't have a problem with the stitches or the balls of wool at the bottom, they look really realistic. The bit I think so, great big 3D flowers, but then the background, it looks like it's done with like a mohair, like a 2 or 1 ply mohair. So those flowers just wouldn't kind of sit like that. They'd all be flopping forward, and it would be sagging as well because the flowers would just be too heavy for the yarn the background's used in. So yeah, basically it would defy the laws of physics and gravity. Next up is this kind of beautiful blue baby blanket. Is it a baby blanket or is it just a giant napkin? Um, So yeah, if we look towards the border, so on two sides, yeah, it's all one piece, but then randomly at the bottom, it's gone into 2 layers. So yeah, I mean, it's totally plausible someone would do kind of a 2 layer ruffle. I've never seen it, but go ahead, use your imagination. But then it's just a bit strange that it's double on one side and then it's part of the blanket, single layer on the others. So yeah, that's an error from the AI. But other than that, yeah, look at like that filet crochet and stuff. That looks quite realistic. Very fine hook. Yeah, a lot of these are as if they're done on a really fine hook as well, which hats off if you can do crochet that small. Next up, okay, we could spend all day analysing the stitches, but let's take a step back. What do you notice amiss with this? Well, the balls of wool look quite realistically wound. There's some random fluffy cotton wool pom-pom bits around the image and on the blanket, but okay. But then if you look at the tools at the bottom, what is going on there? So the main one that makes me laugh is those scissors. So the normal, if it was normal, those handles are completely bent round and on a right angle, and then there's like another one for a space for like another hand, so you use both hands to cut with it. Yeah, very peculiar. And it's strange, I think, if AI is that intelligent, why would it then do that? Surely it knows what pair of scissors are. But there we go. And then the other tools at the bottom, none of those resemble a crochet hook. They're more akin to a pokey tool. Yeah, not a clue what those are. And again, there is just that shininess to the image. And wooden flooring. Next up, okay, these like little daisies, gerbers are similar to that other blanket we saw. The tassels on this compared to the first image, these are like proper tassels, much more realistic, which yeah, they'd totally pass for me. Yeah, the furniture looks fine. The bit for me, the only thing that kind of gives it away, apart from the wooden floor, is that tool at the bottom. It looks like some Edward Scissorhands would use, and would probably be able to crochet a blanket from it, but I certainly could not. So yeah, that's a bit weird. And the ball of wool next to it, I mean, it could happen. Has another colour wound around it, which is a bit peculiar as well. Peculiar. Okay, next one, mandala. These are quite actually, like the mandala crochet coaster things. Um, again, wooden flooring. Bit strange. Let's see. So yeah, the centers again, the AI can't quite magic ring just yet. Done on a very fine hook. If you look to the left of the image, the tools, which I suppose they mean to represent what made these, are not crochet hooks. They're just very peculiar. But that pottery mug's really realistic. So yeah, you could see how someone who doesn't crochet or a beginner, apologies, my phone's going off. It's the dog's chat. It's just the dog texting me. There's a couple of bits, particularly that first one at the bottom where they're a bit squiffy actually. But yeah, otherwise it would be really convincing. You can see how someone would think this is real and achievable as well, which would be very disheartening then when and if it's not. Let's see, next in, nice handbag. For me, a couple of things give it away. That lace is really good and convincing actually at the bottom. The kind of lace fabric. However, the handle just isn't crochet, it's like a woven texture, so the AI doesn't kind of recognise that bag handles have to, in this case, would need to match the product and the way that's made. Yeah, the flowers you could say are realistic. So I mean, this is nitpicky, but we have to be. Towards kind of the center left of the bag. So obviously crochet, you're going round and round in rows. It almost looks like you've got as if you would in knitting like a German short row. So it's as if they've been going round, gone back, let's say half, and gone back again and start going round. So you've created an extra row, round, sorry. So yeah, it just doesn't, you might need to lean in, but yeah, it just doesn't quite add up that bit, which I'm very chuffed badge that I spotted that. Next you see a lot of the mandala-y, coastery things. Yeah, for me on this, it's almost more emulating embroidery, like particularly that dark green, and they're just so close together as if it's been stitched round and round, which, you know, crochet isn't. So yeah, but it's really pretty, isn't it? Yeah, and no wooden flooring, trying to trick us. Oh, but there is on this one. Okay, booties. Yeah, there's a bit of a shininess to this, which is a bit peculiar. Yeah, so those, well, they're not even crochet hooks, they're like knitting needles. None of that would work because they're so tapered, and as we know, you'd go, let's say 4mm crochet hook, it would need to be consistent all the way down the shaft, if we're allowed to say that. Yeah, so for me, it's the tools that give it away, that random wooden flooring. The balls of wool look convincing, as do the booties, but there's just that shininess to it. Oh, another one of these flaming coaster things. Okay, the problem I had with this one, first, if you look in the background, the tool to make it looks like some sort of fountain pen latch hook thingy, antique. So yeah, that would never have made this. And also the AI's got a bit confused. This is like it's kind of embroidery, you know, that beautiful painted work. Particularly with the yarn, like you'd never get variegated yarn that would do like the satin stitch and embroidery is basically what it's trying to show. Where in the petal you've got the bits of dark purple going into the light, you just couldn't do that. Yeah, so this looks like embroidery crocheted and it's just confusing the crafts. Next up, a granny square, more wooden flooring. That's yeah, that's the word of the day. I nearly said take a shot for every time, but it is about 11 a.m. So yeah, that till the goodness knows what that is. It's like some sort of Tudor medical instrument, and it's the stitches of the granny square itself. Those definitely aren't treble crochets. I do like though how the flowers in the corners, they're very pretty, and I'm like, is that possible? Don't think it is, but I'd certainly give it a go. Um, yeah, you could see how a beginner would think this is possible though, but those definitely aren't treble crochet, double in the US stitches. Okay, these little girls, you get a few, and this is ones that my friends posted, like, oh, I'd love to make this for my granddaughter. Like, no. So the first, sorry, the central girl, those are like some random fluffy mohair that just wouldn't happen on the sleeves. The center bodice bit almost looks punch needled. Then we've got fabric, which could happen. And some lace crochet over. The bit I have the glowing issue with is those Elsa or whatever they are, dolls at the bottom. I mean, they could just be dolls sewn on, but I think it would affect the hang of the dress, particularly as we've got quite a few materials and textures and random bits going on. The people ones, and we might see some more later on, I feel like their eyes are quite shiny. Oh, and there's one girl that just hasn't got shoes on, poor child. Yeah, and the one next to her who's got the green and yellow outfit on, her shoes have no sole, and if you look, her toes, sorry, are flat on the floor. So sometimes you've just got to look for the tiny discrepancies. And from a practical point of view, so with those lacy skirts that would clearly show your knickers through, what the issue for me is with that lacy crochet, you'd be doing it with a finer yarn, but to get holes that big, you'd have to use really chunky yarn, but yet you can't see the individual stitches. So that just doesn't quite add up for me. Next in, another one of these frocks. Yeah, just to quickly go over it, we've got them mutant scissors again actually at the top, and then the other problem I have is just this random plastic head in the middle, which if it was an art piece, I suppose it could have been done, but they can't kid a kidder. Yeah, this one's not real, and you've got to then look for other bits like those scissors that aren't real. But yeah. Next in, okay, shiny-eyed children that are slightly scary. I hope, sorry for leaning in. The way they're holding hands, whoa, those fingers are giving me creeps a bit. Yeah, this is another where it's lace crochet, but they've used like a full bottle of starch on it because it's really stuck out. And then the weight of those roses, it just wouldn't happen. And they've beautifully got them to stand still in a field, these toddlers. Yeah, let's move on because they're slightly scary, those children. Next in, okay, if the dress looks convincing, then the bit I have the issue with is those balls of wool. The one on the right, okay, maybe they've just wound another colour over it, but then the one on the left looks like something from Ann Summers. I don't know what's going on there, but that is not a ball of wool. Next in, okay, so the kind of Disney dress things are quite the theme. Yeah, I mean, it looks convincing, and the bottom could be, a separate lace trim that's been put on it. I just don't think it would sit with those lovely neat pleats and folds, as many as there are at the top gathers. It just, especially it looks like, such fine crochet to get all those pleats on the skirt, and then when you put the trim on, it just wouldn't sit like that. But yeah, otherwise that's really convincing. Next and this is beautiful. So the bit I spotted on this, if you look on the waistband on those kind of scallops, the one on the left is like a double one, and then the one on the right to the far right has a bit missing, and that's what gave it away. But otherwise, that's quite convincing. It's weird, it doesn't do symmetry all the time, isn't it? But yeah, this is more convincing, the trim at the bottom compared to how it flows and the weight of the fabric. Okay, mother and child. First of all, the biggest thing that's unconvincing is, I don't know about you, but by the time I'd finished making those, like the child would be 3 years older and I'd probably be like a dress size wider. So that's the bit for me that's unconvincing. Um, yeah, the dress is a bit holey and lacy, but yeah, to fair, the crochet is quite convincing in those random crocheted shoes. However, the faces on this are shiny, and the woman's hair looks a bit cartoonish. But other than that, to be honest, the crochet is quite convincing. Okay, next in. This we've got a few things going on here. So even if you're convinced by the bodice crochet, then we go in, that's no way crochet, the skirt, the pink bits, so that would be, let's say, a tulle, and then we've stuck on all sorts of crochet peacocks, which, fine, but then the bottom is crochet, so you've got the beautiful flow of the tulle, and then if you put a crochet trim round, then that wouldn't go anywhere. There'd be no giving it, especially like a cotton crochet. So that's just, yeah, not really realistic. And the bit I spotted then, if you look at the dress on the left, there's two pink and a blue, whatever those three things are on the sleeve, and the others have blue, so that just doesn't quite add up either. But it is beautiful. Okay, we've got child with all the elders simultaneously making the dress, she wears it. Okay, I mean, it is quite clever, they're all making the dress. What are they using to make it with? It looks like, well, they're making a kind of an alien attempt to knit with goodness knows what tools, when this is crochet. The fabric looks like kind of a dish scrubber. um Wooden flooring, clearly, as we all sit on it, making this. It's just a bit strange. To be honest, the bottom hem where there's those jaggedy lines as if it's been crocheted, that's convincing. Just the castle isn't quite, but you can see how someone would be like, oh, how do I make this? And also, unless she's got a massive underskirt on, which we can't see, it just wouldn't stick out like that. Okay, next 10. So yeah, another one where if we can't pick at the crochet, the tools are definitely a bit funky. There's just half a pair of broken scissors, some sort of knitting needles going on, some sort of spindle, and then as a British person, just the jar of cup of tea in the top corner. I'm not sure what's going on there, and we've got the nice wooden flooring peeking out as well. This is really convincing. So I don't know if you've seen it, a lot of plant fan pages, but then they do a lot of like the crochet stuff and people think it's real then. So it's not necessarily just on crochet pages either. I've seen all sorts. So yeah, the rope looks convincing. To be honest, it all does. The basket, the petals, whatever they are, leaves. Yeah, so just one to watch out for, that they do come up on other pages as well. And how I knew this was, because it's quite difficult to tell, was AI is they posted other crochet images that I could tell were. So obviously it puts this one into doubt. This is another one from one of those planty pages, bit of wooden flooring again. For a start, they're like calla lilies. Wouldn't have those with that size, Jurassic size leaf from a different plant. You wouldn't have that. And then the stems are real. Okay. So yeah, there's a couple of things if we look into it I missed there. Next in, oh lovely grandma using a crochet hook and a knitting needle, or 2 crochet hooks to make this. And yeah, even if you're convinced by Paddington rip-off, which to be fair is quite convincing, I'm not convinced that she's just, well, she's shiny for a start, and her forehead doesn't have wrinkles. She's just got a couple of wrinkles around her eyes where she smiled over the years. She could be a model, but yeah, there's a couple of things I'm not convinced at, because you see those images of people, you know, like playing the violin and holding it like upside down or whatever, so she could be a model, but yeah, it's the lack of wrinkles and perfect face fillers that don't convince me. Next in, this is, look at the pot, that's convincing of like a scrappy project where they've started halfway on the round with a different colour. That's clever. The bit that's not doing it for me is the ginormous ladybird. Okay, so if you think how big those crochet flowers are and then how big that ladybird would have to be, and it's portrayed as a realistic ladybird, not a crochet one, so that's like the cast of Bug's Life, okay, coming into this. Sad grandma who hasn't quite had the facial treatment the other AI lady had. I mean, that's a wrinkly forehead. She's had a hard time. If we're convinced by the crochet, and look at the attention to detail actually of things on the shelves. The bit I'm not as, so she's missing a finger, like it hasn't even been amputated, just missing it on the right facing us hand. Then the left hand, and it makes me sick if I look at it too long, she's got like a deflated finger. So obviously people can have, you know, limb loss, amputated fingers, but just the way they're done, and that deflated one, yeah, it's a bit off. Next, these are super convincing. Little birdies, I think they're really nice. The one I managed to spot is that fella right at the bottom, the yellow and green one. He's only got one eye, bless him, which is totally conceivable that it could have been missed when sewing. And those leaves look really convincing actually, at the bottom. But yeah, and it was from one of those pages where they'd already posted a load of other nonsense as well. But yeah, missed an eye out there. Okay, grandma showing off a Tom and Jerry cushion. So just sorry, it's this hot weather. It's the way this is constructed that I take umbrage with. So we've got, you know, a cross for the background, then the motif, there's no way then it, and even the stitches aren't facing that way, so it's not done, you know, as colour work across and with backstitch around it. It would have had to have been done separately and stuck on, which it's all lying so flat that they're making it as if it's a part of the cushion. It's just not constructed in any sort of way, to be honest. And there's no kind of stitching. It's too perfect. There's no stitching where you'd have then put the applique motif on and things. But yeah, grandma looks convincing actually. She's even got a wedding ring on. She's got all the fingers, so that's something. Next up is this one. I'm not even saying wooden flooring anymore. I'm getting sick of that. Um, oh, what was unconvincing? I think it's just the shininess of it, because you could totally think that's like beadwork in the middle. It's very pretty. I think it's just the shininess on this, and that when you've seen quite a few images, you can spot them better, which is hopefully what this video will do for you today. Next one is this beautiful vase and bouquet of flowers. Very convincing. It's just the petals. It's more as if it's kind of been tatted. You just, yeah, you can't do that with crochet. However, I do really like it, especially the ball ones. They're quite convincing. There's another point of making AI crochet video pictures, but there we go. So this one, I see loads of octopuses as well. No idea why. This one, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then there's 2 extra legs that just come out of nowhere. So yeah, that's the problem with that. It's clever. It looks like it's been done with variegated yarn actually. And then the suckers on the bottom, like how on earth have they done those? That's not crochet. I'd be terrified having a ginormous octopus on my couch actually. Next in, okay, I think this might be the last one as well. If we kind of go into detail, then Tomcat against such, he's really thick against such a fine background, that just wouldn't happen. It would be sagging and flopping. It would defy physics again. And then if we take a step back, the way Grandma's holding it in the middle there with all the strength, giving it such a weighty tomcat on it. But then, yeah, if you look at the corners of the blanket that are just being held by someone from the spirit world. So yeah, that's another one where we take a step back and see the obvious. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video and can spot those AI images, particularly knit and crochet. Don't forget to let me know your thoughts on whether you like AI, whether you have an issue with it and take umbrage. Do let me know so we can do another video on it. And if you give us a like, thumbs up, subscribe, all that good stuff, it really would help the Little Miss Drop Stitch channel. So thank you and take care. And now I'm going to do some crochet in the garden.